Hey, it says we're live. Give me 2 seconds to go over here to the interwebs and make sure that it's actually working. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I saw a bunch of guys jumping in already and waiting for us to get on here. So I appreciate you tuning in. And it is working. It says we got some live action. But today we are in for a treat. If you hadn't heard of him, now you heard of him. Friend of mine, Clover Tech. He does a bunch of same stuff that we do and a bunch of other stuff that we don't do. Go down below. The link to subscribe to his channel is in the description below. Everybody, welcome Clover Tech to the Whoteewho show tonight. I appreciate you jumping on here.
What up, buddy?
I was trying to think of the first time we ever met.
I don't remember. It's been a while. Been a minute. Been a minute.
My memory's pretty much garbage.
Yeah, no, it's been a minute. I don't even know, dude. Like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't even know. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Well, I was trying to think today the last time I saw you, and I think that was at NRA.
Yeah.
And I think that was in Indiana this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was NRA. Yeah.
Cool. Well, before we get into it, give us a 30-second. Who is Clover Tech, and what are you all about? What do you do?
Worst gun tuber on the internet, bro. In a story. Done.
Oh,
didn't even need 30 seconds, man. No, man. I just do the gun tuber thing. So help out with 2A in Texas when I can. I don't know. It's kind of hard to put a label on it, right? Do a lot of things. You know that.
Yep.
So influencer, content creator, podcaster, we do it all. In fact, the late 23 podcast season kicks off Wednesday with a buddy of mine. A lot of you may know, Top Shot, Dustin Ellerman, one of the funnest guys out there to be around. I don't know if you know him or not, old Dustin, but
I've met him probably 10 times, but we're not like friends per se.
Yeah.
What have you?
Well, he's friends with everybody, so it's if you've ever met him, you're his friend. So it's that simple.
Yeah.
But do podcasts, do videos, like social media. Obviously, Amazon. We've talked about that. Been hard and heavy this month with some stuff on Amazon. So that's it, man. Just real quick to throw it out there. If anybody is looking, maybe YouTube's not their thing, and they'd rather go podcast or whatever. The website clovertech.com, right? And you're the same way, I'm sure, with the Whoteewho site, right? Like that's where your centralized location and everything. You can find everything to get to where you need to go.
Yep. And man, you guys are going crazy in the chat. I'm going to. Where did it go? See, I'm super ghetto when it comes to this stuff. He really knows what he's doing, Clover Tech. I just pinned Clover Tech's YouTube in the chat on YouTube.
Ouch, that hurt, man. You pinned it.
Definitely go subscribe, and then
sterilize that needle first.
I did not.
Well, I've got hepatitis now. Thanks, appreciate it.
You can find all his other stuff from the YouTube, Amazon, and all that. But I just pinned his YouTube there in the chat, live action on the YouTube. So I told you like 3 seconds ago, everything we do is pretty much random.
That's fine.
If you see something in the comments,
I got them up.
Holler it out. I'll do the same. Aside from that,
so real quick, if you see me doing this, right? Like I'm not looking for TIE fighters. Just so everybody out there knows, I'm allergic to wasps, and occasionally there gets a wasp in the man cave here. So if you see me do this, I heard something. And it, was not a TIE fighter.
I haven't seen any TIE fighters in here, though. But I'm the same thing, except I don't have wasps. I get random gnats in this room for some reason.
I don't know if it'll show. Oh, yeah, it will.
Oh, yeah, we got it. We got it. So everybody go subscribe to Clover Tech. I'm gonna start hitting you with some random questions.
Oh God. Well, we can do that. I may have some random questions for you though, so be prepared. If you're gonna dish it out, you better be able to take it, bro. And you
Well,
could take it
whatever.
because I'm telling you, I put it what I shared. Like the hardest working gun tuber out there, and you are, dude. Like, I think you work. We've had this conversation personally. You work a lot harder than I think you need to. I mean, I sure hope the folks out there that are watching now and listening or whatever, uh, I hope they appreciate the fact that most times you work harder than you have to. I know it's just who you are.
What? And I saw that on Facebook. I think I saw what you said on Facebook, and I sat there and thought about it for a second, and I was like, "This is kind of my perception of things, right?" So let's parallel this to like baseball or basketball. So you can have a guy over here he's the best baseball player in the world, but he knows it, and he has a big head, and he's kind of a bum, and he's not working hard at practice. He's answering the phone. But then you got this guy over here. He's not quite as good. His batting average isn't as good. He doesn't have the fancy shoes and the fancy bat. But every time he steps on the field, he hustles and he puts the work in.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy that I'm picking for my team, and I want to coach. So that's kind of like I feel like I don't know, like that's a tool in my toolbox that
Yeah,
if I can outwork everybody, I can. That's just my perspective sometimes.
that's
I feel
true.
like
But
I don't know.
well, the conversation that we've had before is sprinkling in, adding in some of the work smart to the work hard. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
for me, it's a two-part equation. You got to do both. And you
Yep.
see people out there that you see content creators, right? Whatever, that they may work hard, uh, but they don't work smart, or vice versa. You see them out there that work smart, but they don't work hard, and you got to have
Yep.
that mix of both. You really do.
100% a valid point. I'm not trying to say I'm something special, but I see people quite often doing the same thing I do, videos 2-3 times a day.
Oh, colleagues, man.
It's hard. It's hard, and I sit there and think that's a lot of work because I know how much work it is.
It is.
But I don't know. I don't know, man. I had the conversation with my wife going down the road today. I said, man, if I had 2 or 3 more of me and I didn't have to sleep, I could get a lot more work done. But I always have these business ideas in my head, but then it's like, well, what am I giving up if I'm going to spend time on that kind of thing? And I was I don't know. It's just hard for me to do.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. You got to approach it from that business mindset, right? Um, I bob and weave and I shift around, but I do it based on ROI, not ROI as in money, but ROI when it comes to my time. Um, Sometimes that's money, which is great, but not always. And one of the big things right now, a lot of the people watching and listening may not know this, but we're in a bad part of the yearly cycle for YouTubers, for gun tubers. Bad. I mean, revenue's down, views are down, like everything is down.
Yeah.
Big time. Big time. For me, probably 30%. For others, maybe even more than that, right? And so what do you do? Because if you've done this long enough, you recognize and you pay enough attention, you recognize the patterns. And there's really not anything you can do. So what I do is I typically during the summer months when it starts to slow, I pull back. And again, it's that ROI. I start, doing other things. Thankfully, stroke of bad luck, but my editing laptop went down about a month ago now, right? And so that made me shift, right? That made me improvise, adapt, and overcome, and kind of shift gears. It kind of forced me into it, and so it's going to get back on track. Everything's going to get back on track. We've got TriggerCon coming up the end of this month, and then so there'll be videos coming out of TriggerCon, and then I've got stacks like whiteboards and notebooks and notepads and spreadsheets with I got to do this video and to get this done and do that. So all that stuff's coming. But yeah, just got to put it into work. That's what it amounts to. Most people are looking for the easy button, right? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like they tell me how to, you see that all the time. Tell me how to grow my subscribers. Tell me how to get more views. Tell me how to make more money. Well, how about I teach you, or how about I give you some advice? Like, I can't tell you how to do it because there's no button you push to make that happen. Actually, it is. It's Alt F4 for everybody out there, but that's a joke. That's a joke. Don't push
I
Alt
don't know what
F4.
that is. I wouldn't try it.
I think it closes the foreground window. So yeah.
But what I'm fixing to get excited about is deer season.
Yeah.
Opens up September 23rd here for bow. I may make it to Texas this year to deer hunt, but I'm not quite sure yet.
Now you cheat, right? You use a crossbow. Cheater.
Hey, it's open to interpretation.
Cheater. You're a cheater.
I
Just
used
admit it. Nothing wrong with it. Just own it, man. You're a cheater. It's fine.
I 100% hunt with a crossbow if it's legal. So, and people hound me about that all the time. My first deer I ever shot was with a compound bow, but ever since it's been made legal to use crossbows in Tennessee, crossbows. I would like to get into bow hunting again, and I've looked at it, but it's too expensive. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it that bad enough to where I'm going to go spend my money to go buy a bow.
My bow, now granted, it is highly upgraded. It is more competition bow. You can absolutely hunt with it though. My bow I bought it was a year old, and I bought it for $125 off of Craigslist. Yeah,
That's
Craigslist,
cheap.
right? Back in, oh man, I don't even know the year, like 08, maybe 09. And then of course I turned around, since I only paid like 100 and a quarter, and it came with arrows. I still used the release that came with that darn thing.
Wow.
But it came with the release, the arrows, the big, huge, hard case. The guy got out of the Army. The story behind it, I found it on Craigslist one night. I got an awesome bow tech in the area. Called him up. I was actually out of town when I seen it. Called him up and I said, "Hey man." And he's like, "Oh, that's a steal." He said, "That's like last year's model." And I'm like, "Holy crap, okay." So I called the guy up and I said, "Man, I won't be back in town, but as soon as I get back into town," he said, "It'll be a couple of days, but as soon as I roll back into town, man, I want it." And he's like, "Okay, it's yours, not a problem." He's like, he told me the story. He said he got out of the Army. So I got out of the Army, and everybody told me, "Oh man, go bow hunt, go bow hunt, go bow hunt." And he says, "So I was out of the Army just a few months." He said, "Run down to where it was, Cabela's, Bass Pro, something. Bought the whole rig, right?" Just ever said, "Oh, just buy the whole rig." Said a buddy made me do this. He said, "I went hunting once, drug all that stuff up in the stand, didn't see nothing, nothing. Got down out of the stand, and of course, it was a bow. I can't just sling it up and pull the trigger, right?" And he says, "Out walks a deer." And he's like, "It's been sitting on the table in my shop ever since." He's like, "That was like 6 months ago or whatever." Or something. And he's like, "Been sitting ever since." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I get it." He's like, "Waiting on rifle season, and I'll hunt." But he's like, "I'm done." Now, because I got it for $125, and I know a good bow tech, and big into archery and competition and stuff for years anyway. It's probably got about $500 worth of upgrade work done to it. It's got custom strings, custom built strings on it. Yeah, it's pretty slick. So when I say that I'm biased to crossbows, I've got a really good bow, and I didn't really spend a whole lot on that good bow. So I can be biased toward crossbows.
I like whatever's the cheapest, and I already got a crossbow.
Yeah, if you already got it, sure. Yeah, yeah.
And
But see, if you've got a bow, then you could, like, you need another thing on your plate. That's what I say. See, if you got a bow, you could get into tournaments and matches and other things, man, and do that. Get into that.
yeah,
Archery is awesome, awesome. But that's another thing on your plate. So you know,
and my kids really want to shoot deer with a bow, so we've got one compound, a youth compound at the house they practice with,
hmm
and then I've got another one coming in the mail, so we have two of them. So we probably will be doing bow hunting, but they'll be doing bow hunting.
they'll be doing. Yeah.
I might use
Yeah.
their youth bow. I mean, it's powerful enough to take deer. I could hunt
Oh
with it
yeah.
technically,
Yeah.
but
It don't take much. Indians was doing it a long time ago with the stick, the string, so it don't take much.
That is true. And hunting in the woods, most of our deer are like 15, 20 yards. So
It's that way here, man. Like it's if you get a 75-yard shot, like that's an amazing feat, you know.
even when I am deer hunting with rifles, it's still
Yeah,
20, 30 yards.
yeah, yeah. Occasionally get to hunt a high line or something like that, you know. And I've got a few buddies that do that. I've done some load development for them for that purpose, you know. Both of them 308, you know what they're running, and I mean they've got deer on that high line out to 700-800 yards. So with custom loads, but they've done it.
I can't even think of a spot within an hour of me where you could shoot that far. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
trees everywhere.
no. I could get about 300 here, and then you know I don't know, to get out 7, 8, 900 yards. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at an hour drive, at least an hour drive, maybe probably closer to 2.
When I go film 1,000-yard videos, I'm driving over 3 hours away just to get to that range so we can shoot that far, which I love. I told my buddy that I go with a couple days ago, we got to go, man, because I hadn't done any long range in a while, but
Yeah,
I drive over 3 hours for that.
yeah.
All right, let's get into some more stuff. So double-sided question.
Oh,
Your most favorite pistol you've ever fired,
mhm.
and your worst pistol you ever fired.
That's tough, man. I'm gonna. Man, I'm still partial to a Browning Buck Mark. I'm gonna go Browning Buck Mark on the best ever fired. Smith & Wesson 617 is close. I'm talking about close, but I think the Browning Buck Mark probably gets it.
Is that the 22?
Worst.
I mean,
Yeah,
is that the okay?
yeah. It's 22. It's been around forever. Um, the worst. You said firearm, or you said handgun though, didn't you?
Pistol.
Pistol. Okay.
I've never shot a buck mark either. I've seen them, but I've never.
Oh yeah, you're missing out. Best possibly the best single action trigger pull in a stock handgun to this day still ever. Period. End of story. Like amazing, and it can be made better even with a little bit of work, but amazing trigger pull on those. Worst, huh? Probably the Thunderstruck 333. Probably.
Never heard of that one.
Now, fun? Yes. Fun. It's fun. But I'm one of those, I don't think I've ever met a firearm I didn't like in some way. You know what I mean? Like, there's people go, oh, I don't know why you need that. Oh, I don't know why you need this. Sometimes just to go out on the range, pull the trigger, and giggle or have fun, right? That is a valid reason. Sometimes to leave it in the box in the safe, let the value of it increase because it's an investment. There's lots of reasons to buy firearms. That one is I'll tell you what it is, and you'll probably recognize it. It is Standard Manufacturing, I believe, is the company. It is a double barrel 22 Magnum revolver. You see those?
Does it have like a 2-finger trigger on
weird 2-finger trigger pull where you've only got like your ring finger is the only grip, the only finger you've even got on the grip. Like awkward. They keyhole. The accuracy is horrible. Like, and you said pistol, so I mean, some people say pistol because even back in the 1800s they called a revolver a pistol. Some people say pistol and they mean semi-auto. Some people pistol's interchangeable. I don't know where you come down on that. So
if you shoot it with your hand, that's a
if
pistol.
it's a handgun, it's a pistol. Gotcha. Okay, that's fine.
You know a lot more about this, so I'm gonna pop this up from Charles.
Uh-oh.
Charles says, "Mountain." I don't know if that's meant to be my high standard model GB is close. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't.
I've got a couple of high standards. I've got a Duramatic, and then I've got a high standard sharpshooter that is absolutely amazing. It's amazing. Gold inlay, target grips. It's lights out. Yeah, the action on the Buck Mark, and they're still no, the Ruger Mark series is a different style action, but the action on the Buck Mark, before it was the Buck Mark, it was the Browning Challenger. And then you've got the Smith & Wesson Victories nowadays, current model, very similar. The Beretta Neos, and I think they still make that. And I'm speaking 20.
I like that one.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really good one for kiddos, honestly. But the Beretta Neos, similar, very similar action. The high standards, very similar action. The Colt Woodsman's, very similar actions. It's that Balaki style rear partial slide with the fixed barrel, Yeah. Whereas the Ruger Mark is the bolt's all internal. The bolt basically articulates, not the slide.
I can't even picture that in my mind. I'm gonna have to go watch videos on it now.
Well, it's within a housing. This is what I'm getting. The Ruger Mark, the bolt moves within the housing, whereas like the Buck Marks, the high standards, the bolt is the slide, basically.
What made me kind of think about that was, and Paul just kind of brought this up right here. So I did a video the other day. I bought a HK VP70.
No.
You remember those?
Yeah.
And it has like the 15 to 20 pound trigger on it. And everybody was trashing it, saying this is a piece of garbage. And I went and shot it, and it shoots good. I mean, it's accurate.
Yeah.
And everybody was saying that's not the worst trigger. The worst trigger is a Sky pistol. And I'm like, I have some Sky pistols. Yeah. I don't hate them. I mean, it's made.
It depends. Yeah. Yeah, it depends. I mean, they're heavy for a reason. Part of that is liability because it's manufactured for carry. Blah blah blah. There's definitely aftermarket stuff. Look up Galloway Precision. They've got some really cool stuff over there at Galloway. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Sky. Don't get me wrong. I can't tell you the number of people, and well, I'll go ahead and say what it is. It's freaking Atwoods. Atwoods here, and they don't even carry Sky anymore. But once upon a time, man, there's no telling how many Skies they sold because somebody would come in, they're looking to get their license to carry or whatever, and they'd sell them a Sky because it's the price. And two things with a Sky: number one, price; number two, they're available in any color of the rainbow you want. And so they sold the crap out of them. But I can't tell you the number of people that would reach out to me and they go, hey, we would have come out and shoot, got some questions, what I asked you, and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And then they would get out here, they had a Sky. And I mean, they shot horribly, and more often than not, the pins in the darn thing would end up walking. And there was magazine issues with them too that I hear they finally got lined out. I don't know. I don't know one. But I will say this at Shooting Sports Showcase, I guess last year. Yeah, I guess last year
in Alabama.
Yeah, in March, I think it was. I shot for the first time, most of the Skies people are familiar with are hammer fired. I shot the striker fire, and it was decent. I couldn't tell you how it would hold up or anything else, but trigger wise, of course, it's striker fire. But trigger wise, it was on point. It was way better.
I'm terrible with models names, but I think I have that one. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, CPX 4 or something.
Yeah. They are CPXs, but I mean, for someone who doesn't shoot a lot, not an easy pistol to shoot accurately whatsoever.
Yeah,
that's true. But I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can make them shoot just as accurate as you can break the trigger.
Well, and people that complain, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm gonna throw it out there like it is because I'm on the internet. Everything's true on the internet. People complain about the weight of a trigger pull a lot of times, and I gotta wonder how much experience they have with the revolvers. Because if you've got any type of long-term experience with revolvers and double action specifically, and staging the hammer. And revolvers are inherently heavy anyway because they've got to do like, and I'm exaggerating, but they got to do like 6 things at one time, right? The trigger pull does. So, it's going to be. It's hard to get around that. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've got some competition model revolvers that has some really nice trigger jobs, and so they're not bad at all. But most revolvers, double action revolvers, and if you're ever used to that, you could very easily pick up a semi-auto that's got a bad trigger and think, it's not that bad. However,
Yeah.
somebody that's only shot 1911s or Glocks, right? It's like it's going to be horrible for those people. Like without a doubt, they've got no frame of reference otherwise.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm
Yeah.
saying is everybody out there needs to get out and shoot as many different firearms as you possibly can. Never turn down the opportunity to pull triggers.
You know what my favorite is at the moment?
At the moment.
The Canic Rival S, the steel frame Canic.
Yeah.
We had my buddy Paul. He has a 4th of July party every year at his house. Shoot fireworks off whenever. It kept getting canceled because of the rain, and we finally had it last night. Shot fireworks off and all that.
Nice.
And we had a shooting competition. He said, "Bring a 9mm." Well, that's the one I brought. And of course, I get that one out of the case, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's cheating," Well, anyways, I won
I
the
would
competition.
agree. I would
won
agree.
the competition.
Of course you did. You stacked the deck, man. Come on.
And then today I woke up, kind of thinking about it, like, yeah, that kind of wasn't fair. I probably should just let somebody else win. But
Hey, it is what it is, man. I don't know. Yeah, Canics are okay, and the Rile's pretty good. I still don't own a Canic, so um, I don't know. I mean, I've got a Walther PPQ, and I tend to think that's basically what the Canic copied. And so I've got a PPQ at 5 inch. The just basically the steel frame match without being a steel frame, more or less. Um, and that thing is lights out awesome. So now don't get me wrong. Run across the Canic at a good deal or whatever. And who knows, man? In November we're going to be making the for those that don't know, because I know there's quite a few people that watch and listen, the largest gun show in the world, not the USA, the world, happens in Tulsa, Oklahoma every April and every November. So look it up, Wanamaker Tulsa's Arms Show. And I think I've missed 1 or 2 shows in the last like 6 years or something there. Um, so I'm usually there. But 11 acres all under one roof, between 4,500 and 5,000 tables of guns, and
wow,
crazy stuff there you will not see anywhere. So one year I'll never forget. Well, 2 stories with that. Number one, they tell me to shut the heck up if I, because I'll monopolize your live stream. I'll talk forever.
no,
But
that's what we're just hanging out, man.
two quick stories about Tulsa Arms Show about Wanamaker. One was we were there one year and walked up on a table, and there's known to be at the time, and I don't know if this has changed or not, Colt Walkers. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the OG Colt Walker revolvers, right? Um, but there's known to be like 30 that exist in the entire world. And you can imagine how many are in museums and blah 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 blah. There was one guy in Tulsa that had 8 on his table, and there's 30 in the world. So you don't see that anywhere else. You see Gatling guns, you see cannons. There's just all kinds of cool stuff there. The amount of Garands in like World War I and II milsurp is just insane through the roof with that kind of stuff. So yeah, folks, get if you get an opportunity to go, I'm telling you, Tulsa is not that expensive of a city to get to and stay in. Get there for a weekend, hang out 2 days at a gun show for 15-20 bucks, whatever the 2 day entry fee is. The food there is pretty good. I recommend the Philly cheesesteak one day and the pulled pork sandwich the next. But yeah,
I would love to go there, and I've never been.
You'd enjoy it. You would like it. You should make it in November. We'll be there in November. Have plans to anyway.
I'll see if I can. Well, I need to have a good excuse so I can go there. So maybe I can shoot a deer and then stop by there and then either before or after.
Well, this is true. Yeah. Yeah. Are there deer in Oklahoma? There's no trees for them to hide behind. I do know that.
There are some deer, but I've never shot one in Oklahoma.
Do they hide behind big rocks or fields of wheat or what are they hiding behind? Because it ain't trees.
My buddy from Gun Talk hunts in Oklahoma. So there's got to be at least a couple there.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a 3-day velvet hunt 2 weeks ago. And I took my boys, one on Friday and one on Saturday. We didn't see anything, but I don't know. The deer were not acting right.
Yeah. Oh, the second story. I forgot the second story. Second story.
Yeah, what's the second story?
So we was sitting there and up until like this last time or maybe the time before, we would get a group of like gun tubers together and we would go as like a media group. So we got special access and they gave us a table. It's like a home base and some stuff like that, right? And we did some 2A outreach. We would get like water pistols and give them away at our table to the little kids and stuff like that, right? But anyway, so we're sitting there and one of the big bay doors gets flung up. And I'm talking about in the middle of the show. The show's going on. We've never seen this before. Big bay door goes up and a truck starts backing in. We're like, what in the world's going on? Like beep beep, big box truck, right? What in the world's going on, man? And they're directing people, get out of the way, let them back up, this, that, and the other. And so we walk over there and just decide to get nosy. And there was a guy that had brought in his personal collection, and he had like 12 or 14 tables of firearms, right? And we're talking about high dollar stuff. We're talking about Colt snake guns. We're talking about rare, import mark, milsurp stuff, like a legit collection. I don't know how many was in it, but I do know that a guy walked up to the table, was looking over his stuff. He got to talking with this guy. The guy said, "How much for all of it?" And the guy selling said, "Make me an offer." And he said, 1.2 million. He said, "Sold." He said, he picked up the phone. He said, "Back the truck in." They backed the truck in. They loaded up all 12, 14 tables. They did a bank transfer for the 1.2 million.
Wow.
A $1.2 million transaction at a gun show, folks. Where else is that going to happen?
I can't even imagine.
Right? And you got to think the dude that spent 1.2 million buying this collection, you don't do that if you don't already have a collection. You know what I mean? So that was my thought process was, what has this guy got at his house? You know what I mean? Already, if he's buying this type of collection.
You got to have a place to put it all, too.
Well, if you got $1.2 million to spend, you probably got a place to put the stuff. I'm just saying.
And did the box truck come with that deal just to drive that sucker home?
Oh, he brought the box truck to the show. I'm assuming he owned the box truck. I'm assuming that. But yeah, he brought the box truck. He had intentions of buying a collection apparently because it was already there. He literally picked up the phone, and 5 minutes later, it was backing in the door.
Oh,
so it had to have been there already.
Gotcha. And I just had this squirrel brain thought pop up in my mind. So we were talking about pistols and what people like and what people don't like and what they've tried. And you don't know if you hadn't tried something. Well, one comment that I get a lot is I do a lot of cheap stuff because that's what I can go afford, right? Ruger Americans, Savage Axis.
Yeah.
What's another one? Some of the CZs are real budget-friendly stuff.
Thompson compasses are down there, aren't they? Are they still making those?
They quit making those. They sold it to Smith & Wesson, and Smith & Wesson canceled it. But yeah, I have some Thompson Center compasses too, and they're good.
Yeah.
But a comment I get a lot is, especially on Ruger Americans, is, "Oh, that thing's a piece of junk. I can't stand when I close the bolt it makes that zipper sound and it's not real smooth. And I'm like, well, for one, I don't really care about that. If it shoots good groups, it shoots good groups. I've got Ruger Americans. I'd rather have over a $2,000 some gun. But
Yeah.
do you want an action that sounds like a zipper for $400 or $500? Well, if you want to go spend $3,000 on something that has
Yeah.
perfect
Right.
smooth action, have at it. But I'd probably rather have 5 or 6 Ruger Americans than one butter smooth action. But that's just me.
That's also an interesting design, the bolt and everything too. So I wonder, and I own 2 Ruger Americans. I do not own an Axis, but I own several Savages, 111s, Model 10. I love my Model 10. It's amazing. Um, but yeah, I've never owned an Axis. But you're right. The original Axis, the Axis 2, and I've even seen some custom stuff built off of Axis. People go and drop, Black Friday, $200 or whatever on an Axis or an Axis 2, and then send the action off to Savage Sharpshooters or something for a couple $100 and rebarrel it. And oh my God, put a bullet stock or something on it, and then they end up with like maybe $600 in a rifle that will shoot circles around a stock Model 10 Savage or whatever. Like, insane.
I actually did that Black Friday last year. I stood in line at Bass Pro for like 3 hours because they had the Savage Axis I needed. The short barrel with the heavy barrel and 300 blackout with the threaded barrel with a scope for $250. And I had to be in Nashville anyways, pick up my parents from the airport. So I said, I'm going to go early and just stand in line.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. And I'll probably never ever buy a gun from Bass Pro again. But I got the rifle for $250.
Yeah. What, an optics package, or was it just bare?
With the scope, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a 3 to 9 by 40 Bushnell banner.
Bushnell or Simmons. Yeah, usually. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I left the scope on it because I'm just using it for hunting at 30 yards in the woods.
Yep. Yep. And that'll get it done.
And I've hunted with some people that had real big money guns and big money scopes. You can spend a lot of money on scopes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like just
$1,000 easy.
As an example, I was hunting with this guy last year. We were we were shooting bison. I had my $300 CVA single shot, and he was hunting with this. It was Fierce, I believe, is the rifle, and he had a big, huge Zeiss scope on it.
Nice.
And his rifle was in 300 rum. Like his package was like a $10,000 rifle.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a $4,000 optic probably.
Yeah, and it was just funny because we were joking, but I mean, we both dropped a bison with one shot. It's just different people, and what they like, I guess.
It's the same as folks that put a lot into their vehicles. They want the fancy vehicle or their house or their whatever. I mean, everybody has their thing, and as long as your bills are paid and the kids are fed and whatever, like, hey, go for it. Like,
Yep.
Spend the money. You can't take it with you. I mean, spend it.
Yep.
It's worth less every day, so might as well spend it now. If you hold on to your cash 5 years from now, it ain't gonna be worth what it was today. But if you buy guns with it, it'll appreciate. So there you go. It's an investment.
Yep. Bending Ballistic says we just took a Ruger American and 6.5 Grendel to 1,600 yards.
Yeah, I believe it. I've never shot one in 6.5 Grendel. I didn't even know they made them in 6.5 Grendel.
I got one.
Do you?
The furthest I've shot mine was 700 yards, but that's all we had in the scope. I didn't have much scope on it.
I've played 6.5 Grendel had its day here with wild pigs, man. People got crazy on the 6.5 Grendel. I opted to go. I was debating. This has been back in the day. This has been probably 15 years ago at least. But I was debating the next AR build was up. You know what I mean? Like lowers went on sale somewhere or something. Back when you could get on sale, you could get a lower for $19.99 or whatever. And it's like, well, I've got some parts laying around, and I got this. All I really got to do is find a barrel, and it's like, am I going to go 6.5 Grendel or 6.8 SPC? And I ended up going 6.8. Ended up going 6.8. This was before you really started seeing the mutant, before you really started seeing the 7.62 stuff in the AR. And a 6.8 is pretty close. 6.8 is pretty close to a 7.62 So that's why I opted to go that route. I really wasn't looking for, longer range anyway. But but it's a great round. 6.5 Grendel is a great round. I've shot a bunch of them.
All I have is the bolt action in it. Bending.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know that I've ever seen. What I said. I don't know that I've ever seen a 6.5 in a bolt. Period.
Ruger American. Bending ballistics. I need to. We were just talking about. I need to do some long range stuff.
Double.
I just like to have fun.
Yeah.
What I like to do is take the cheap stuff and then do long range stuff with it. That's what I like to do.
Well, a lot of folks don't realize it can do it. I can't tell you that there are people that everything has to be like, oh, this so and so is sub MOA or sub MOA guarantee, and I'm like, man, I can guarantee you, I can go buy the cheapest. I can go down right now to Walmart, not known for their firearms for sure. Usually it's blim models and stuff that gets sold to them. But I can promise you, I can go get a rifle from Walmart. I can find the right ammo combination. I can break in the barrel properly, and probably get MOA or sub MOA out of it. Yeah. Now at 100 yards. Now at 500 yards, depends on the caliber, it depends on the cartridge, it depends on a lot of things, right? But yeah, 100-yard MOA, and especially in optimal conditions, that's not hard to do nowadays in 2023. Once upon a time, that wasn't the case. But now with modern machining techniques and stuff, CNC machining and the way that barrels are cut and everything else.
So I do a lot of shooting, and most of it is with bolt actions. And I'm sitting here trying to think. I don't remember a single rifle that I could not get better than a 1-inch group. Mm-hmm. I might have had to try 8 different types of brands of ammo, but I do not recall a single rifle that would not group better than an inch. At least with one type of ammo.
Yeah.
I can't remember any.
That's the key, finding the ammo. That's pretty much all of it will do okay. Hunting accuracy, things like that, probably be okay. But yeah, everyone out there, and I've even seen it where you have two. Now, I've never seen consecutive serial numbers, right? Or serial numbers that were close enough that I think they were in a lot. But I've seen two identical models. One may be a 39,000 serial number and the other be a 180,000 serial number that like totally separate ammo. Like their favorite is not even the same brand, not even the same grain weight, like nothing.
Yep. So I was having that same conversation a little while back with the guy. You ever heard of Jim Harmer? He does Backfire TV.
I mean, I don't know. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
But he was kind of saying the same thing, that he would love to test out. Say we're doing Ruger Americans. Say if Ruger would send us out 10 in a row of the same gun, and then we do an ammo test just to see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I can't afford to go buy 10 of the same guns, but just exactly like what you're saying, that would be a very interesting result.
It would have to come from the factory because they get scattered so much with distribution and stuff. Like being able to find consecutive serial numbers is that's a pain in the neck. And a lot of folks don't realize that unless they're sold in a set. Some you can pick up in a pair, but that's usually revolvers or something like that. You see with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be interesting. That's what I'm saying. I've never seen anything where the serial numbers were consecutive or even close. So like a 39,000 serial number and let's say a 41,000 serial number, right? That's close enough that could actually be in the same lot even. But I've never even seen anything that I've never been able to, I should say, uh, witness two that were that close or surely to test them out myself. But I would venture a guess that if you did that, if you got 10 consecutive serial numbers, I'm not going to say they would all 10 like different stuff, but I bet you would find maybe 3 different ammos, at least 2, and if not 3.
Yeah, but I would love to try it out. I don't know. Next time I have somebody on the phone that has the power to let us do that, I'll ask them.
Right. Yeah. Well, Ruger's listening. I'm sure they're out there listening and watching. So, what are you waiting on, Ruger? Send Whoteewho some rifles. Come on.
I talked to a Ruger employee for the first time about a month ago.
Good luck
But
keeping that relationship. I don't know what it is about their turnover, but oh my gosh, it seems like every show they got somebody new.
I kind of feel like it's like that across the board.
It's with a lot of them. It is. Yeah, you're right. Especially big companies. I
They
called.
either,
So my contact with Walther, I was so excited. They went to Taurus, right? And I was excited because, well, Walther's good stuff. I talked about my PPQ earlier, right? But Walther doesn't have a variety. Taurus got a variety, man. They got revolvers. You can get into lever guns with the Rossies. They got big bore revolvers, small bore. They got semi-autos, right? They got the copycat designs, the 1911s, the 92s. They got the Heritage,
yep.
with the little cheap fun guns. And so he went to Taurus, and I was so happy. I'm like, all right, sweet. Like I've got a solid contact at Taurus, and Taurus has a bunch of stuff, and so I got to play with a bunch of stuff from Taurus. He's back at Walther now, so now I've lost my freaking Taurus contact,
I
which
think I know who
sucks.
you're talking about. I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
With the one thing with Walther that I was excited to try out and then I forgot about it and got busy and was their 22 mag that came out. Have you tried that?
I did at a range event somewhere.
I hadn't
But
tried it.
in the wild, I haven't. I'm not a fan. Full disclosure, when it comes to, I'm not a fan of semi-automatic 22 mag. Period. Um, it's really weird on pressure. It's a rimfire, so when you start double stacking mags and you fighting that rim lock issue, and it's just I'm very leery of it.
What was it Kel-Tec that has the other one?
The PMR 30.
Uh,
Yeah, that was probably the
yeah.
first one that come out that everybody freaked out over. Yeah.
Yep. I had
Yep.
the thought of the very first time I got one of those. Well, I only got one time. I had the thought of it being, like my wife's gun for the house or whatever, and it just wasn't reliable where I would trust it for that.
Yeah.
It was just a plinker.
Yeah. And I think you eventually have that issue with, see, a lot of people dig on the Glock 44 when they come out with that, the little 22, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, oh, hell, that Tarson's doing the double stack, and I don't know why Glock didn't do a double stack. Well, because the design of rimfire ammunition is very specific, and rim lock is a thing. And Glock knows this. Glock's not stupid. They've been around the block, and they were not going to manufacture something. 2 reasons, actually. That they were not going to manufacture something that, number one, they had the potential, especially as mag springs were, they had the potential of rim lock and other issues going on. And then number two, if they kept it at 10, that's been the standard for, we talked about the Ruger marks, we talked about the buck marks, the high standards, the other things. That's standard, that's been standard capacity forever and has worked flawlessly for decades and decades and decades. So they're like, we're going to go with this. It's proven. And get this, states that have magazine capacity limits, we can sell it to them.
Yep.
Done. Like
You know what I?
it was a business move.
The Taurus TX22. I love that thing.
See, I don't.
I love it. I love it. I've got it.
I'm happy for you.
I've never had. Why don't you love it?
I'll officiate the wedding, man. I'm that happy for you. But I thought
No.
it's a real stupid reason. I think it looks like crap.
Fair enough. Like,
and it feels like crap. I can't
it
knock
shoots
on
good.
it. I can't knock on it too much for the way it shoots. I'm not. I can't. But I can't get over. I think it looks absolutely horrendous. Horrendous. I think they could have done such a better job on that. And I play around with a lot of 22. You know, the vast majority of what I own by cartridge is without that 22. Having years in youth shooting sports, that was a thing, right? Because if I was going to get it, well, if I get it in the 20, get in something in 22, then we can take it to the range and all the kiddos can shoot it and have fun and whatever, right? So, you know, have shot because I'm interested in, 22 stuff. And that one from day one, from like the first picture, it's like, nope, like, nope. And I don't even bother. You go to a range there or something. I've shot it. Like I said, I've shot it before. And be out playing around. Somebody break one out. I may run a mag or something through it here and there. Just somebody's personal. We're hanging out. But yes, it's pretty much day one looking at it. I just never. I don't like the way it looks.
That's where we're different. I put zero weight in how something looks. I just don't care.
Yeah.
And if it's ugly, I'll probably like it even better.
I guess, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'll take one of my buck marks again. I'll go back to a buck mark. I'll take one of my buck marks. Let's shoot a bullseye competition, and I guarantee you, the buck mark's going to win. The TX22 is not going to win that.
Next time we're hanging out, remind me, and we will test that out.
Make that happen.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That we use mine as like the trap line gun. Like I've got a reflex sight on it.
Yeah.
It's a great suppressor hose.
Oh, I can see it having a purpose. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm not hating on. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating saying nobody should own one. I'm not hating saying it's a piece of junk. It's just it ain't for me. Like it's just ain't for me.
I got you. So, I don't want to hold you on here too long. Real quick, because I know you got a whole lot more experience than me in this too. And I just watched one of your videos recently kind of talking about this. What's your 2-point question again? What's your favorite 380? And would you ever recommend 380 to people to carry?
Let me cover the second one first and say yes, absolutely 100%.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I asked it.
Yeah. Yeah. 2 of my 3 everyday I've got 3 in the everyday carry rotation. First one is the Glock 42. That's my primary because it's a Glock. You beat it around, it gets wet, it's just gonna run. It's a Glock. I'm not a Glock fanboy. I'm just saying. I knew when you need it to go bang, Glock's probably gonna go bang.
I have a Glock in my rotation too.
Yeah.
A 31.
Yeah. And it's so familiar. It's so fun. That Glock 42 is and let me back up and say the reason I have the 42 is I got it like 10 minutes after it came out. So the 43 was nobody knew that was coming at the time. And by the time I'd done that and I'd had 380s already, like why shift into 9mm and with the 43? I just didn't want to do it. So I've kept the 42. Beretta 84. And a Taurus Protector Poly in 38 Special, which I don't even think they make the 38 Special anymore. I think all they make now and that is the 357. So that's my main 3 lineup. And as you can see, 2 or 380. My thing with 380 is I think it will fit for you. For certain people, they're not going to feel confident with it. They're not going to feel. My thing with carrying is you need to be comfortable, competent, and confident. And for some people, 380 it's not going to allow them to meet those three criteria. All of them. It may one or two even, but it's not going to all of them. And I understand if it makes you feel better going 9 millimeter, go 9 millimeter. But for me, nah, 380. There's nothing wrong with it. It can get it done. Now my favorite. Wow, like I'm gonna pull a Whoteewho, and I'm gonna say, um, right now or currently is what I'm gonna say instead of all time because I answered the buck mark pretty much all time earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Grisan MC14T that I've been playing with, the little tip up barrel from them. Uh, Holy Moses, dude, that thing that thing impressed me so much. And it impressed me so much because I like my Beretta Cheetah, yeah, I know it's a copycat. Basically, to me, I think it's a better design than the OG Beretta tip up back in the day. But my Beretta 84. So that Beretta 84, I put a very aggressive set of lock grips. By the way, if you're looking for Z10 grips, lock grips is where you want to go for sure. Um, but and it helped tame that down. And you think, oh man, a metal gun, metal Beretta, single action, double action, and what recoil 380? What? And I'm like, yeah, you don't realize the way it's designed. I mean, it's snappy. And so I put a set of lock grips on it, gave me a little more purchase, a little more grip surface area and everything, a little more aggressive, I should say, and it tamed it down. So my comparison going into this MC14T tip up, because I don't really care. I mean, I know how some people would like the tip up, that they benefit from the tip up. For me, it's cool to have. You don't have to use the tip up. You can work it just like any other. You never have to trip
Sure.
the tip up lever if you don't want to. But anyway, I wanted it because it was sort of like the 84. It was kind of that design, kind of that size, kind of that style. But oh my God, the trigger's better, the action is smoother, felt recoil is less, and accuracy, it's not even close. It's not even close. Now, from the time that I seen the MC14T, which I got to see the Gerson MC14T, I was one of the very few people that seen it at SHOT Show. They pulled me into the meeting room and said, "Hey, check this out." I'm like, "Oh, are you freaking kidding me? Like what?" And they're like, "Yeah, don't tell anybody. This is like a straight up prototype. Like hopefully we'll release it at NRA." And they did. They released it at NRA. And I've said since NRA, since they released it, I've said, that may be one that sneaks its way into my carry rotation and retires that Beretta 84. Because let's be honest, that Beretta 84 is a Beretta 84. It's an OG Cheetah. And so that one could get retired into the just fun gun, shoot it. It's cool to have a Beretta Cheetah. You know what I mean? And then have something little more modern, little less on the valuable side, which is not a bad thing, right? Um, as for a carry piece. And I think that it probably will. Probably by the end of the year, that little MC14T will sneak its way into the carry rotation. I think it will, but it has not. I haven't had any trouble. So nobody out there, don't misunderstand me. I've had zero problems with that handgun, but I take it really seriously with the handguns that make it, you know what I mean, into my carry rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And it has not been through enough rounds and been through enough trials by fire, literally, and all of that yet. But by the end of the year, I think it will, and it's looking very good. It's looking optimistic. So right now, for 380, the MC14T from Gerson.
I knew you liked the 380s. That's why I asked that question, and you know a
Yeah.
whole lot more than I do. So I'm embarrassed to tell you, I
Nah.
only own one 380,
Okay.
and it's a Taurus Spectrum.
Oh, that's one of the worst ones you could possibly own, dude.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
Wow.
I
Okay.
never,
Well,
I never carry that as a primary, but I do take it with me from time to time. Throw it in my
dude,
pocket.
it's first of all, the Spectrum better than the Curve.
I never tried the curve.
Better
I
than the Curve.
remember it.
Yeah, yeah. So let's put things in perspective here. Um, but yeah, the gun you have with you, some people want to complain about stuff sometimes, and sometimes it may not be the optimal gun, the optimal firearm, the optimal handgun. It may not be the optimal for all around purposes or whatever, but sometimes it's better than nothing, you know? And that's one of the things. I got one of those little Trailblazer life cards, right?
Yeah.
The little folded up, looks like a cell phone, single
Yeah.
shot, 22. And people dog on that. Man, they dog on that. And I'm like, so here's the deal. I do not like carrying things in my pocket, right? And this is where I realized they said, "Hey, you want to work with this? We need to get you one." Great guys, great folks at Trailblazer, by the way. And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Send one out. I'll play with it." I'm like, I don't carry pocket stuff. Like I'm just not. I don't. Like in the wintertime, I'll take one of my mini revolvers or something. Sometimes if I'm wearing a jacket or a coat. But I live in Texas. I live in East Texas. So like there ain't no there ain't hardly ever winter days where I'm wearing a coat to be able to stick one of
Yeah.
those in there. But that was my thought. I thought, okay, I'll get it. I'll do some videos. I'll play around with it. It could be cool because it's a short barrel to do some velocity tests with 22 and some other things. So there would be a reason to have it in my stable, other than it's cool because it flips around and transforms, right? Um, but I was surprised, and I'll tell you why. Like I said, I don't like keys in my pocket. Like change,
I don't either.
I'll leave 97 cents laying on the counter and say give it to the next person almost, or turn around and hand it to a kid in line. Like I do not like weight in my pockets. And so um but here's the thing. So I did a video with it and was out on the range and I was cleaning up, you know, and I just folded it up and I slid it in my pocket, right? That night when I went to go to bed, that Trailblazer life card was still in my pocket. I slid it in my pocket when I was cleaning up from shooting the video with it on the range, and it stayed in my pocket the entire freaking day, and I didn't even realize it was in my pocket. And that
Mm.
changed my perspective a little bit. Is it optimal? Does it need to be your primary everyday carry? No, absolutely not. But it changed my perspective on okay, like if you want something that's highly concealable, that at least you've got something on you, right? And especially if you're like me and you can't stand carrying anything in your pocket, this might actually be an option. It might fit that little need, kind of like you're talking about with the Spectrum, right? It might fit that little need there. And like we talked about earlier, there's a bunch of different reasons to own a bunch of different firearms. And so that's just one of them.
Yep. There's three that I typically carry. Well, sometimes four. Glock 31. That's a full size 357 SIG. 15 plus one. Then there's 1911 45. And then there's Glock 21, which is a full size 45. And then a lot of times I'll grab the Palmetto Dagger,
Oh, okay.
which that's 9mm.
Yeah.
But in my
Basically a Glock
head,
19, right? The dagger.
yeah, exactly. In my head, I would like to get into the more concealable stuff, but at the same time, I just got a nap.
You got to find something that's fun to shoot. So that's the thing. And that's why that's why my 42 is my primary. That Glock 42, it's a Glock trigger. Is it great? Is it some special thing that you're going to go out and win competitions with or whatever? No, it's not. But you got to realize you're talking about in a self-defense encounter. You don't have to put them in the same hole at 25, 30, 50 yards. You got to put them on a silhouette at more like 3. So get in the right frame of mind, first of all. And so the thing about the Glock 42 is it's comfortable. It's a Glock. It's familiar, right? Like I said, not a Glock fanboy, but I've shot Glocks for years. I've owned Glocks for years. And so it's comfortable. It's familiar. I know that and I'll tell a story about it, why I know this. I've actually proved it. You talked about a 1911 earlier, but more odds are it's going to go bang, right? When I need it to go bang. But it's totally fun to shoot. Like the recoil is absolutely manageable on it. I could spend all day out on the range unloading 380 with that thing, playing around, plinking steel, whatever. And the more you pull triggers, the more practiced you are, the better you're going to be in a self-defense situation, right? But to speak to the reliability, so I got a buddy, it was actually the Bowtech when we first started the chat up here was talking about. So we were out on the range, and back in the day we did 5 disciplines of shooting sports, all on a Sunday, all on the same property. But there was a pond there, and the pond was bad with snakes and stuff because of that pond. And so we hear some screaming, right? And so we call ceasefire, kill all the lines. We start running over. There's some picnic tables around the pond. We start running over there. Thankfully, nobody got bit, but there was a snake. So I'm behind my buddy, that's the Bowtech. He carries a little 1911, or at least he did. He doesn't anymore. He carries a Glock now, believe it or not. But he carried a 1911. I'm not familiar. I appreciate 1911s, but as far as the size and which ones are which, I got them mixed up. But it was a smaller barrel length, 1911. And so anyway, he beats me there. He pulls the 1911, click. I run up on the run. I'm running up, draw the 42, and go pop pop, double tap, and cut the snake into 3 pieces, basically. Pop pop on the run, pop pop. And I turned to him and go, "You trade in the night," because we would always rip on each other because you need to get rid of that Glock and get a 1911. And I'm like, there you go, proof that when you need it, the Glock is what you need.
Wow.
And he was mad. Well, anyway, so to be fair, because I always like to be fair, but to be fair, he got home and he started taking his 1911 apart. And of course, it had been a while since he cleaned it. He carried it every day and sweat and gunk and whatever, and which Glocks don't care about that mess for the most part. Firing pin channel's sealed off, right? For the most part. Blah blah blah. So he cleaned it up and it ran fine. So that's the other thing is, I'm sitting here and I'm touting Glock like I'm a Glock fanboy, but whatever you carry, make sure it's well maintained and cleaned and, operating properly. And even if you don't or haven't shot it, take it down and just make sure you hadn't got pocket lint. You hadn't got, a bunch of Texas heat sweat that's rusted something up or whatever. But, yeah, that's my story. Glock versus 1911 right there.
That just made a bunch of old fuds upset. But
well, take care. It's anecdotal. Take care of your 1911. It'll be all right.
Everybody who loves, I don't particularly love 1911s. I shoot it plenty good, practice with it, whatever.
Yeah.
Some days I feel like being a cowboy and I carry 1911.
I own quite a few. I absolutely appreciate the design. I don't shoot 1911s particularly well, and I never have. I just never have. And it doesn't matter which one it is. Now, the 2311 stuff or the 2011 stuff, yeah, I mean, I'm a little better with those. So I think it has to do with how thin the grip on a 1911 is. If it's a little bit thicker, and you'll notice in any of the videos, the guys out there, you'll notice in any of my 1911s, what do they have on them? Finger grooves. I put finger groove inserts under the grips. Why? It changes the grip design on it, and I actually shoot them a little better when I do that. That's why I do that. And I also usually change the grip to a thicker G10 grip for lock, which gives me a little beefier purchase. And I don't have big hands, but there's just something about how thin a 1911 the frame is. You know what I mean? And I don't do well with that. It's got to fill my hand up and fit my hand. But yeah, I mean, I totally appreciate the history and the beauty of 1911s. I'm not going to knock anybody on choosing 1911s for sure.
All right. So last question before I'll let everybody go here. Thanks everybody for jumping on here for the live tonight.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I have no idea what your opinion's going to be on this, but it comes up a lot lately, and it's pretty controversial. So specific to carry, optics or iron sights, so reflex sights or iron sights.
Okay.
What are your thoughts off the top of your head?
So okay, I'll caveat and explain later, but let me start out by saying iron sights, period, hands down. That's what I'm going to say right out of the gate. Now, there are people out there that have eyesight problems, and I get that. I also don't think people should start out on red dots. I think, and that goes for scopes and red dots and things on rifles when you're teaching the kiddos too. Please teach your kiddos iron sights and Kentucky windage and how sights work, because once they have that grasp of how that works, they're going to be so much more proficient once they get into optics at one shot follow ups, right? Ooh, one shot, boom, I missed, but I'm low left 6 inches, whatever. I'll just adjust on the fly. Bam, got him. That type thing. They're going to be so much better with that, so much more proficient. So teach irons. Now, like I said, given you got good eyesight, which I do, well, it's debatable according to my wife, but and now that being said, I've got a couple of handguns here, and I can't talk about what they are just yet. Everybody will find out in October when I'm allowed to talk about it. That are designed for carry. You don't have to; they could be range toys, but they're designed for carry.
Sure.
That are optics ready, RMSC footprint. So I'm fixing to. I have ran optics on handguns, but in a competition setting, right? I've
Yep.
never run. I've shot them at shows and other things and other people's stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I have zero experience, but I don't. There's a lot of difference between, oh man, I put a mag or two through something over here, and this is at my house every day, all day, every day for me to play around with, right? Big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So, over the next few months, it's going to be interesting to see. Does that shift my opinion? I don't think it's going to shift my opinion on you need to learn irons, right? I don't think it's going to shift that opinion. But is it going to shift my opinion to opening up the door to put a carry optic handgun in my rotation? And I mean, it could. Never say never.
We could sit here and talk about this. We could have a whole podcast just on this conversation. But
right.
Here's kind of my thoughts on it. So I don't disagree with anything that you said. Like iron sights, you got to know how to use iron sights. But if you're faster and more accurate with the reflex, more power to you. Now, a piece of that argument people against them is, well, it's electronics. What if your battery goes dead? Well, on every carry pistol that I have, it also has the 1/3 sight iron. So you still got both of them.
Yeah.
Where I think the red dots or reflex sights, whatever you want to call them on a pistol, really shines is, and I only have one that I carry with a reflex sight on it. So I carry much more often just irons.
Right.
The one that I do carry that has a reflex sight on it, where I think that the situation where that would really shine is if I'm in, and whatever, government listening, whatever, don't take this as advice. If there was a situation where I had to protect my family against a threat at like 50 yards, that reflex sight, I can hit just about the same spot every time. Whereas my group at that distance might be this big with irons. But that's just my personal experience where I would prefer to have that in that situation.
Let me go another way with this. Another way that I'm going to start out by saying, in a self-defense situation, it's kind of like we were talking about. Does the cartridge, does the caliber matter? Does this matter? Even does the firearm matter to an extent? Does optics even matter? Like when you have to draw and it's quick and it's on the fly and something's come up, are you lining up a red dot? Are you even trying to line up front and rear sights? Are you even paying attention to that? Or is it muscle memory? Bam, done. Right? And so I say that, does it really, to just for people to question that when the debate comes up, irons versus optics. At the end of the day, does it really matter? Does it really matter? I mean, even if your red dot didn't work when you drew it and you didn't have the irons on it, right? Like you say you do, co-witnessed, would you even know your red dot wasn't on? Or would muscle memory take over and you pull it up and go pop, pop, pop? It's like it's not, right? And so here's a plus I think that could be for red dots is instilling that muscle memory, because when you got front and rear sights, and this is where I said before, you need to understand the mechanics and how sights work. I think that's just a fundamental part of marksmanship, and everybody needs to be fundamentally sound with that kind of stuff. However, once you get to that point, I think for training muscle memory, I think a red dot could be a good device for training that muscle memory because it's repeatable. It's like you were saying, it's precisely repeatable. You're only going to pick that red dot up in the center of that window at a certain presentation, right? You're going to have to repeat that presentation over and over and over. If you're a little high, if you're a little off, if you're canted left, if you're canted right, you're not going to see that dot. So that teaches you repetition on your presentation. And yeah, when it hits the fan in a dark alley or whatever might happen, like you may not realize it, but I think that muscle memory, that's when that could kick in, or if the sight happens to fail, pull it up and go to work anyway.
And that I have a reflex sight. I said I won that competition last night with the Canik Rival S. And that sucker's dialed in. At 10 yards, we have a piece of steel that's like the size of a penny.
Oh, yeah.
I smoked it.
Yeah.
I mean, at 20 yards, we're hitting spinners like that big. Smoked it. And it's like, come on, man. But that's just having fun at the range where you get 10 seconds a shot,
Yeah.
But
yeah. Yep. Yeah, in real life, like I said, it's not gonna matter. You've got a big target. What, your 10, 12 inch, 15 inch, 14, 15 inch, depends. Could be more than that, across. If you can't hit who can't hit a 10-inch piece of steel at 3 yards or 5 yards or even 7 yards? You know what I mean? And anything more than 7 yards is going to be a pretty questionable self-defense shoot, in my opinion. They're going to say, why did you run away? Why did you, were you actually in danger? Potentially being some hot water over that anyway. So, but yeah, 5 yards, you can't hit 10-inch steel with something. Come on, that's doable with just about anything out there, including a little North American Arms mini revolver, which, like I said, not much barrel for them things to be that accurate, but they'll get it done.
I can do pretty good with those.
Yeah, they will. Yeah. Got to poke holes at a big target at a short distance. That's the equation for self-defense. As long as it pokes holes in a big target at a short distance, you're good, man.
Yep.
Practice with it. Keep it well maintained. All of those things that you need to do. Because I think that's what it's kind of like. That's what's going to get you more than your choice of firearm or caliber or whatever. I think in a situation, I think your brain's going to get you, right? You're going to get people that take too long to think or they freeze, right? Their brain's going to get them. Or it's something they dropped the ball on, like the guy, like the 1911, my buddy with the snake in the 1911. He pulls it out. 1911s are the greatest thing. Click. Not if you don't maintain them, they're not. So, maintain your stuff, and then just understand that sometimes your brain does weird things. And so that's why you have to be thinking about scenarios, self-defense scenarios, and hopefully working those into your training, right? There's all kinds of training drills and stuff out there that will simulate randomness, and interjecting some randomness into your training. One of the things that can be really cool is set some timers, just some random alarm timers on your phone. assuming you have like electronic ear pro or something that you can hear it. And it sets your Bluetooth, like the ear pro from Axel. And there's a lot of other stuff that's out there too that has it's ear pro and it has the Bluetooth. But Bluetooth and it set alarm timers on your phone and crank those suckers all the way up. And then when you're out there training, you'll be in the middle of drawing and maybe the second trigger pull, and all of a sudden, something goes off, and it jars you, it startles you, right? And you can tell, like you finish it out, and you're like, oh man, I pulled a shot there, or I hesitated, or whatever, because this extra noise startled me while I was doing something. So, yeah, there's all kinds of things like that. If you do low light, practice, not anything having to do with noise, but lights, different types of strobes, and different things. You can even set mirrors downrange and have somebody stand behind you with a flashlight and try to reflect a flashlight back in your face while you're trying to shoot. Weird things like that. Get out of your comfort zone. Standing 2 foot, squared off at a target, two hands, one shot every 2 seconds is not the way that you train to carry. Get out there and do some off the wall unconventional stuff. And let's be honest, that's what's fun, right? It's fun to go out there and do the weird unconventional stuff. Like shooting from the ground. Like shooting from the ground is so much fun. Like I like rolling around on the ground and shooting. It's awesome. Will I ever need to do that? God, I hope not.
Yeah. We try to practice a little everything. Left-handed, right-handed.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yep. I probably shoot more single-handed than I do two-handed. But that's a lot of the competition background. And a lot of people don't realize that up until the late 70s, early 80s, it was unheard of for people to shoot a handgun two-handed. Like, what are you doing two-handed? Like, there's Army manuals from the early 1900s that, it's like one-handed. You go to competitions and bullseye competitions and all that kind of stuff. It's all shot one-handed, single-handed. They were designed to be, handguns were designed to be shot with one hand. That was the entire point. And then, Cooper came along and some other ones, like I said, late 70s, early 80s, and they go, hey, here's a better way. If you put two hands on it, you're a little more accurate. You got a little more control, which is true. But again, one-handed, 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards at a, big, huge silhouette target. You're going to get the job done. I'm telling you, you're going to be able to get the job done. So just don't read too much into it.
Yep. Well, that's going to be the show, guys. Everybody, I appreciate you hanging out. Don't forget to go subscribe to my buddy Clover Tech.
Or not.
We will catch you guys on the next one. Appreciate y'all.
That was weird.